With just 2 weeks left to go in the regular season, our St. Louis Dragons are getting healthier and healthier as we look forward to hopefully another playoff run. The Dragons here at 10-5 only have 2 more games left against 2 of the worst teams in the NFL, and that starts here today at home against the Seahawks. I apologize that this episode didn't necessarily follow the normal upload schedule, and it came out a little bit later than you may have expected it, but that's because I've needed extra time over the last couple of days with the draft class, and today we will be doing a prospect profile, finally going over the offensive players in this year's class. Briefly, though, we'll recap last episode in which we beat the defending Super Bowl champion Miami Dolphins 34-31. It wasn't necessarily a perfect game, but we were able to hang on with some big possessions late from the offense and some timely stops by the defense. As it stands now, we are currently the 2 seed, and we control our own fate to land that second spot. The Panthers have already locked themselves into first place, so our focus is on getting the number 2 seed and giving us the most home field advantage prior to a possible meeting with Carolina in the NFC Championship. Let's now go through our prospect profile on the offensive side of the ball. We're first in the NFL in terms of offensive yards and offensive touchdowns, so I think it's fair to say we're pretty strong on the offensive side of the ball with some core foundational building blocks here, including Puma Whitlock, Arturo Modelo. The signing of Sharif Sully in the offseason has been a grand slam. But outside of those guys and a few other solid players here, I'm not sure how many of these guys are going to have another contract with us in terms of our talented skill position group or our offensive linemen. So I still want to focus on the long-term outlook of our offense because eventually some of these long-time faces may need to be replaced. We'll start at the quarterback position, and I think this is going to be one of the better QB classes we've had in this series. Now, obviously, we don't need a starting quarterback because Puma Whitlock is he's pretty good. And ultimately, of course, he just signed his contract extension. He is currently second in the NFL in terms of the MVP voting, only trailing Lamar Jackson, who leads the NFL's best team currently, the Ravens. And then he's second for NFC Offensive Player of the Year, only behind his number 1 receiver, Arturo Modelo. We had him sign a 7-year, $448 million extension earlier this season, so obviously he's not going anywhere. But Chance Montemolo's on the last year of his deal, and we could be looking for a new backup because I think he's going to want to explore an opportunity as a starter. So we'll start with the top quarterback in this class, and that's Zachary Bridger out of Cal, who could be in contention for the number 1 pick, which will likely be held by somebody in our division. Bridger's an intriguing player because he's got unbelievable arm talent. He can make all the throws, but he lacks ability as a dual threat quarterback. He doesn't really give you anything as a runner. And out of structure, he's nowhere near as good. So I think he will be maximized in the perfect situation. But if he gets that, oh, look out. He could be special. The other surefire first-round quarterback right now is Nota Jean-Pierre out of Stanford. I think there's more to Jean-Pierre's game. He's really good out of structure, under pressure, and sure, he doesn't have as strong of an arm as Bridger, and he isn't as accurate, but I think some teams could have him higher on their board because of his ability under pressure, making plays out of the pocket, and his ability as a runner. Kalawaya Sasilvia out of USC is a pretty intriguing player. I like his upside, but I think he's got a ways to go. He's not the most consistent quarterback, but he's got a strong arm and another guy who's good out of structure. And then we've got Arroyo Schmitnikov out of Washington. He's an intriguing player because he's 6'5", 245, but he is quicker than some of the other quarterbacks in this class. He's also got a really strong arm, but again, the accuracy has a lot of work to do. Armando Bronze and Amari Dillon lead the way of possible quarterbacks later. And I think Jabril Karamoko from UTSA is the name to watch on day 3. Some really intriguing long-term upside with him. As we move over to the running back position, another solid group of players, and I think running back could be a bigger need for the Dragons than people might think. We've got a really good duo with Milan Santa and Darwin Juskins, but I'm not fully sold on either of these guys as long-term pieces. We'll start with Milan Santa, who in his second season has really taken a big leap in production, but we haven't gotten a full season out of him. He has suffered a season-ending injury 2 years in a row now, and that leaves to question if he can make it through the entire season. As for Darwin Juskins, to keep it simple, he's not getting any younger. Sure, he's only going to be 26 next year, but that's old in running back years. I think he's still got some years left in him, but with only 1 more year left on his current deal, we may need to look at a long-term replacement for him. Noble Kendary Bokan is one of the rare pure fire first-round running backs And that's because of his ability in the passing game. A dynamic receiver out of the backfield. He is elusive, he is quick and shifty, and he is a modern 3-down running back that teams are really going to love building around, which is why he could very well go in the first round. In terms of day 2 guys, Walker Bolton from Penn State is honestly a pretty similar player. And if you miss out on Kendary Bocan, I think Bolton in the second round is a really good consolation prize because, again, 3-down back, really good in the passing game. And then as we look later on day 2, Quintrell Pierre from Michigan is pretty good. But what about this guy, Rodrigo Juskins? This is Darwin's younger brother, followed in Darwin's footsteps, going to the University of Washington. And I think he's got a little bit more upside as a prospect than his brother had all the way back in season 1. I think Rodrigo is a little bit more upside than his brother has. I'm not entirely sure if he's going to be as good in the passing game or in short yardage situations, but I think Juskins could be a good pro. In terms of day 3 guys, I think Arush Patel Santana from Georgia could be pretty good. Kobe Appinger from Stanford's a big sleeper as well. And now let's move over to wide receiver. It's a pretty deep class without much top-heavy talent, but I think receiver is a sneaky position of need for us long term. Obviously, at the top of the list, we've got Arturo Modelo, who is a legit #1 alpha receiver. And at this point, I think it's fair to say he's the best receiver in the NFL, currently challenging for the receiving Triple Crown. And of course, as we saw earlier, he is the current frontrunner for the Offensive Player of the Year in the NFC, with his quarterback, Puma Whitlock, trailing behind. Like Puma, we signed Modelo to an extension earlier this season, a really team-friendly deal. And because of that, he's going to be here for the long haul. But again, I'm not entirely sure about the guys behind him. Jamison Williams only has 1 more year left after this one, and he's not going to be getting any younger. He'll be 28 next year. Amarion Cephas and Colin Robinson, both free agents. 2 guys who I would like to bring back, but we're not going to have a ton of cap space next year. Jalen Mallard is an intriguing rookie, but he is still very unproven. So how much do we trust Mallard to slide into the starting lineup next year? And even if he does that successfully, we may need a long-term replacement for a guy like Jamison Williams, who, again, is not getting any younger and is expiring next year. I think there's a number of receivers who could be the first one off the board this year, but it's hard not to look at the upside that Sibley Longfoot out of Arkansas has and think he's going to make it out of the top 15 picks. For players who are 6'5", they do not move like this guy does. His weight is a question. He's only 193, but if he bulks up, look out. He's already pretty physical for his size to begin with. Then this group of 6 can really go in any order, and that starts with Darcy McKenna from Cal, the #1 receiver for quarterback Zachary Bridger. I think a really good pro comp for McKenna is Arturo Modelo. Similar frames, they can both work inside and out. Really good route runners, really good with the ball in their hands. Thierry McKinney III from LSU is the next great Tiger receiver to come out of the pipeline. This is a true vertical threat. He might be the fastest player in this entire draft class, somebody who can work in the short game and the deep game, and he really knows how to use his speed to his advantage. I think after these top 3, everybody else here is projected probably to go in the early seconds, such as Dejon Mays, Irvin Phillips, and DeAubrey Thomas. Thomas from TCU, I think, is the name to watch here. I like his size, 6'2", 220 pounds. He's physical, but he's also quick and agile. Deontay Shatley and Justin Nguyen are intriguing deep threats. Bernie Montague is a big slot who I like a lot. I think LaDorian Fields from San Jose State's a pretty fun player, only 5'7", but he is electric with the ball in his hands. And then even going further down the board, I think there's some real gems on day 3, guys like London Wilson, Lorenzo Colsey, and Lancelot Cooker. Let's move over to tight end. I think it's a decent tight end class. I love the depth here, though. Probably not anybody who goes in the first round, but a lot of day 2 guys. Obviously, we've got Isaiah Likely at tight end, who's been a really consistent starter for us for quite a while. But like Jamison Williams, he only has 1 year left on his deal, and he's not getting any younger. That's why we drafted Wilson Boafana in the 3rd round this year. Boafana's missed around half the year with an injury, and when he has been healthy, we haven't been able to get him on the field a ton. He only has 3 catches. But Isaiah Likely is dealing with a shoulder injury, so we could see a lot of Boafana this week against Seattle, which I'm really excited about. As for the tight end class, I think it's pretty similar to the receiver group, where there's kind of one clear guy at the top, and then like 6 or 7 players who could go in any order. As it stands now, Poppin Reginald out of BYU feels like the top tight end in this class. I think he's the most well-rounded of the group. He's one of, if not the best blockers in this class, and he's really athletic, really big, dynamic receiver. As we look at the day 2 guys, I think Taco Laney from Iowa is the name to watch here. This kid is a total freak. He's basically a 6'7", 250-pound wide receiver who lines up as a tight end. He is ultra quick and ultra instinctive. Not going to give you much as a blocker, but he is an elite receiving threat. Jared McMillan, Suleimani Tuliasi, and Davion Harvey headline the list of other talented day 2 tight ends. As we now move on to the offensive line, I think it's a solid group here. And offensive line's a peculiar spot for us because it's been a need for this team for a while. But I think this offseason we found multiple long-term starters. Obviously, we signed the left tackle, Sharif Sully, to a huge contract, and that has been a great move for us. He's been fantastic. We drafted Mason Rosenberg in the 2nd round. He's been really good. And then Samandre Mack, the first rounder a couple years ago, is also a stud. Those 3 guys look like really good long-term pieces for us on the offensive line, but I think left guard and right tackle could be positions of need. We have JT Robinson and Bugsy Briggs currently starting there, but as we look here, Briggs is a free agent in the offseason along with Royal Osuchua, Inazuma Mutsugu, Zach Tom, and Pea Puia Tatia. So pretty much all of our good offensive line depth is not under contract next year. So even if we're not looking to add a starter, we definitely need depth. And we're really going to be looking for positional flexibility because that's what guys like Zach Tom and Royal Osuchua can bring. So we'll start at tackle and work our way in. Josiah Cameron from Oregon, I think, is a surefire first rounder. He's one of the best pass protectors in this class. He gives you everything you look for in a blindside tackle. 6'6", 320 pounds. He's one of the most athletic offensive linemen in this class. He really moves well for his size. And in the pass game, I think he's going to be really good right off the bat. Karan Arnold from Alabama is an intriguing player. I like his long-term upside. He's got great size, 6'7", 360. Not as polished as Cameron, but probably has more physical upside. Dayton Underwood and Pudge Hornish, I think, could be pretty solid second-round guys as we move over to right tackle. Ty Polonide from Miami, I think, could end up being a really good player. 6'6", 314 pounds. Another guy who is super polished, super athletic. I think he's going to be a really good starter right away. But if you miss out on him, don't worry. There's plenty of consolation prizes. Stanley Ishkovich out of Arkansas is a pretty good player himself. 6'5", 316 pounds. Another guy who really relies on his athleticism and finesse to make things happen. I think he's a little bit inconsistent, especially in the pass game. He's got to improve there. But if he does, he could be pretty good. Keegan Basile Jr. out of Virginia Tech is one of the youngest players in this class. And I think he has really good long-term upside. I think he's pretty consistent despite being super young, which is a major asset for whoever ends up with him. Looking inside, I could certainly see the Dragons looking at a guard early, especially Duncan Fleeko out of UCF, who I think is going to be really good right away. There's no weaknesses with his game. He checks off all the boxes. He's going to be a really good starter right away. Brendan Turner and Zach Gaines could also sneak into the first round. Gaines in particular is a guy who I'm pretty intrigued by out of Ohio State. And then at right guard, plenty of high-end talent here. 3 guys who are probably going to go in the top 40 picks, possibly in the first round, as we start with Ezekiel DeJean out of Penn State, 6'4", 326. He is an anchor, an absolute bull, maybe the strongest player in this entire class. He is a physical presence who is looking to maul you. Romello Coleman out of Kentucky is large, 6'7", 350. He's not as polished as DeJean, but he is a big human being and an absolute space eater. Khalil Hall from Kentucky, I would argue, maybe is the most upside for this group. He's also large, 6'6", 355. I think he moves even better than Coleman does. He is a little bit older, though, at 23, whereas Coleman's only 21. And I would argue Coleman's the more consistent player. That's why Hall could go a little bit later. But I think he has the highest ceiling of any guard in this entire class. As we move over to center, Valentino Mercado out of Georgia is really the only good one in this class. He's currently the only center projected in the top 150 picks. So he could very well be overdrafted. But I do view him as a first-round player. I think he's a guy who's going to be able to contribute right away. Super athletic. But he also knows how to rely on power. He is a strong, physical force. Again, he is large, 6'6", 355. There are some awfully big offensive linemen in this year's class. So that's going to wrap up this prospect profile. Next episode, we're going to look at the entire defensive class. But now our focus is here on Week 17 against the Seahawks. Of course, Carolina has clinched the #1 seed. They're 2 games ahead of us, and they beat us earlier in the year. So there's no way for us to finish higher than them. But we control our own fate for the 2 spot with teams like the Packers chasing after us, Minnesota as well. These NFC South teams aren't, since they can't win the division, but the teams contending for the NFC North and NFC East could make a run. The Giants have played good football as of recent, and obviously the Commanders, Eagles, and Cowboys are all still in it as well. If the season ended today, we would play against Atlanta in the first round. As of now, all 4 NFC South teams are slated to make the playoffs, which scares me because we almost got swept by the NFC South this year. If not for a fluky turnover against the Falcons, we would have lost all 4 of those teams. So I've got some good news and bad news injury-wise. We'll start with the good news. Jameson Williams is back. He broke his collarbone a few weeks ago against New Orleans. Statistically, his numbers are down this year, but he is still obviously a very important piece of the puzzle for us offensively. And then Simeon Bonnet is back from his abdominal tear. Bonnet has been the best defensive player in football this year when healthy, and boy, did we miss him when he was out of the lineup. I figured defensively we would play a little bit worse with him being injured. I didn't know it would be this bad, though. Since getting injured against the Buccaneers in Week 13, our defense has gone from one of the better units in the NFL to one of the worst. We've allowed exactly 31 points over the last few weeks, and as we take a look at the opposing quarterback's passing numbers, it's pretty noticeable. 471 yards for Deontay Harris. Against Atlanta, Ritter, 382, only sacked once. Against the Jets, who have one of the lesser passing offenses in the NFL, Deacon Adderley, 297, only sacked once. Against the Dolphins, 352 for Tua, only sacked once. There's a common theme here. These quarterbacks are carving us up, and it's because we're not getting any sack production. I guess it's not a huge surprise because these guys don't get many sacks with Simeon Bonnet in the lineup, so without him, it's obviously going to be worse. It's not just the passing game, though. Part of what makes Bonnet so great is his ability as a run defender. We still had the best run defense in the NFL, but it hasn't been that good as of recent. Let's take a look at some running back performances with Simeon Bonnet healthy. Nick Chubb really struggled. Kenneth Walker, one of the best running backs in the NFL, was abysmal against us in Week 4. Nick Chubb again, 69 yards, nice, but wasn't that good. Juice Watkins, 3/4 of his yards came on 1 carry. Rashad Price, 3.3 yards to carry. All of these guys were not good against us with Bonnet healthy. Let's look at the running back performances without Bonnet playing. Albeit we did play against some of the best backs in the league, but still it is noticeable. The Buccaneers ran the ball pretty well, even though all their running backs got hurt against us. Bijan Robinson was solid before he got hurt, and Steel Covey comes in to carve us up. And then over the last 2 weeks, Breece Hall, 100 yards and a touchdown. Jonathan Taylor, just shy of 100 yards and a touchdown. I don't know if it's a coincidence that our run defense has fallen off, or if it's true that Simeon Bonnet is that important. We're really going to see today, again, going up against a really good running back and a really good run game with Kenneth Walker in Seattle. So having Bonnet back is going to be such a big deal for us. He's still in first place for Defensive Player of the Year despite missing 3.5 games. And you know what? He should be in first, considering how much our defense has fallen since he got injured. I think that proves that he is the Defensive Player of the Year. Let's go over the bad news now injury-wise. We've got a number of nagging injuries still with Sharif Sully, Colin Robinson, Trajan Blyshenden, and now Isaiah Likely, who will be limited this week against Seattle, but he will give it a go. We're also going to see plenty of Wilson Voafana as well. The big deal here, though, is Milan Santa, who tore his rotator cuff late in the win against the Dolphins last week. He's been put on injured reserve, ending his season for good. And it's unfortunate because, as I said earlier, I feel like Santa has taken a real leap here in his second season, and this is going to be a huge loss for us. He's so explosive and dynamic for us out of the backfield. I like our backfield the way it is, and with the extra roster spot we're getting by putting him on IR, I don't think we need to sign a running back, but DeAndre Swift is here, the former Dragon, and I actually think this would make a lot of sense. Swift was our lead running back for the first 4 seasons of the series. We then let him go. He signed with the Bears, where he was cut mid-season because they just didn't really need him. And we ultimately drafted his replacement, which was Milan Santa. The two of them have really similar skill sets, and with Swift already knowing the system, I think it's going to be a pretty seamless transition. He's already shared a backfield with both Darwin Juskins and Joe Mixon, so he's already used to playing with these guys. And again, he knows the playbook. We're going to ease him in snap-wise, and I think he's going to take on a bigger load, once we get into the playoffs. Let's now take a look at our matchup here against the Seattle Seahawks. A nice battle of first and second place in the division. The problem is Seattle in second place is 4-11. They were 2-1 when we played against them in week 4, and they led that game 10-0 after the first quarter, but they choked it, and they've fallen apart since then. And it's not like they're losing close games. They just flat out stink. They're getting blown out, 38-0 here against the Bucs. They did win last week, but it was against the Rams. Both of their wins since week 4 have come against the Rams, which isn't much of an accomplishment considering the Rams are not very good. Tyler Nguyen, the former second rounder, had a great rookie year last season, but he has fallen apart this year. Kenneth Walker has still been really good, but he's been pretty much the only bright spot in what otherwise has been a completely horrible season for the Seattle Seahawks, who are one of the worst teams in the NFL. Their offense is not good. Their defense is not good. They don't force turnovers, but they give the ball away a lot. In other words, this team is horrible. But I don't want to look past this game. The Seahawks are really the only team in our division throughout this series who have consistently given us trouble. We generally dominate the Rams and the 49ers, but that has not been the case with Seattle. We usually split with the Seahawks, and being that we already beat them earlier in the year, we could be due for a loss against them. The Seahawks are obviously coming into this game hungry with us being a division rival, and they're still looking to try to play spoiler and hurt our seeding. So we'll see if the Dragons can improve to 11-5 here on Sunday Night Football as the Seahawks will start with the ball, 2nd and 6. It's a play-action fake, and Nguyen is sacked by Malachi Weston. Already the pass rush looking alive early. Weston and Bonnet both in the backfield with pressure, but Weston was able to get there first. 3rd and 11 now. Nguyen looks to throw it up the middle. He fires for a first down to the tight end, Noah Fant, who appears to be dinged up after the play, but not before converting. 2nd and 8 now from around the 39-yard line. Nguyen looks to throw it. Slant up the middle. It's Jackson Smith-Njigba who gets it to roughly the 50. I feel like every year we play a primetime game against Seattle, but usually it's in Seattle. It's weird that it's here this time. 3rd and 4. The pass is misfired for Kenneth Walker. Ultimately, the Seahawks would decide to punt it rather than go for it or kick a 60-yard field goal. And thus the Dragons now have the ball, 3rd and 5. It's a short out route for Arturo Modelo, who gets the first down. But the Seahawks are going to look to challenge it. Why? He was very clearly in bounds. Well, there's a reason why the Seahawks are 4-11, and it's because of stupid decisions like this. Obviously, they lose the challenge, and they lose their timeout. 3rd and 2, RPO for J-Mo. That ball's out! It's a fumble, and it's picked up by Gunther Zimmerman. He'll take it all the way for a scoop and score, and the Seahawks strike first with a defensive touchdown. Welcome back to the lineup, Jameson Williams. He fumbles it on his first possession back. That ball was clearly out, too. A big hit from 95, Lance Sturlovich Jr., who pops it out for Zimmerman to pick it up, take it to the house. No need to review it. The Seahawks strike first. They lead 7-0. On 3rd and 6, up the middle, it's the tight end, Wilson Voafana, for the first down. Excited to see him get some extra reps as the third rounder is on the board with a catch. Puma, under pressure, connects with Arturo Modelo, and Jesus Christ, Puma Whitlock is injured. We cannot have him getting hurt this late into the year. It's not a serious injury for Puma. He'll be fine. He doesn't need to go to the locker room. It's only muscle cramps, and he's going to come right back in the game. But anytime we get an injury with him this late in the season, we're going to panic a little bit because over the last 2 years, we've gotten one healthy playoff drive out of him. 3rd and 8, Puma up the middle, connects with Amarion Cephas, who is decked, but he hangs onto the ball for a first down. Nice grab by Cephas. 1st and 20 after a holding call on J.T. Robinson. Puma looking downfield. He's got Jameson Williams, who gets it to the 11. J-Mo looking to make up for his early fumble. Certainly not the return he wanted, but that plays a lot more like it. 2nd and goal from the 1, under a minute left in the quarter. Puma rolls out under pressure, and he connects with his tight end, Isaiah Likely, for the touchdown. Even with a shoulder strain, Likely is playing today, and he is on the board with a score. I really like what Puma did here. He knew Likely was covered, but he figured as he would keep scrambling, he'd be able to find a little space to thread the needle perfectly for Likely, and he does. But the booth wants to take a look at this, which is just another excuse for us to see this nice catch again. Although really looking at it, I think you could make the argument that he might have had one of his feet up as he caught it, and he didn't get it back down before his knee touched. Well, the play will stand. The officials do believe that he had both feet down as he caught the ball. And so this game is tied at 7 after all. On first down, Nguyen keeps it himself. He is sacked quickly for a loss of 3. DJ Orleans and Demore Diggins bring him down. I don't know what Seattle was trying to do there. Was it a design QB run? They didn't sell it well at all. Again, another reason why they're 4-11. Third down now to kick off the second. Nguyen, with no time to throw it, is slammed into the ground. And the Dragons get the stop once again defensively. Whoa, did Abraham Lucas just throw a punch at Bonnet? I want to see more of this. Hold on. Dragons back with it on offense. Puma on the run. Fires for his top target, Arturo Modello, who gets it to around midfield at the 49. And Seattle's going to challenge again. Once more, he was very clearly inbounds as he caught the ball. Why are they wasting their challenges? Again, the mental errors that this team clearly has contributing to the reason why they are 4-11. Obviously, the challenge is upheld and unsuccessful, and the Seahawks have now burned 2 timeouts. 3rd and 5, it's a run with Swift, and he gets the first down. A surprise run from the Dragons as Swift, in his first carry back here in St. Louis, converts. 2nd and 5 now. Puma up the middle is a wide open man. It's Darwin Juskins who gets it to the 3. Even with the addition of Swift, this really is Darwin Juskins' backfield now. I think he's going to see a bigger role than ever, and the Dragons are going to heavily depend on him the rest of the season. 1st and goal, Modello wide open for the score, and St. Louis takes the lead. Let's look at this ridiculously good play by Modello, who's initially double-teamed. He fakes the out route to the left, which is a route he normally runs, taking the backside corner out of the play. He gets separation immediately from the other corner, Andrew Booth Jr., number 35, and he goes from double-teamed to wide open within the span of a second. Seahawks back with it as Tyler Nguyen loses a yard. He's wrapped up by the rookie out of Michigan, Zion Creed. Good to see him making a play in the backfield. 3rd and 7 now from the 28 for the Seahawks, just trying to get anything going offensively, as that one is caught by Sky Moore for the first down. Okuda nearly makes a play on the ball, but is unsuccessful as the Seahawks try to get some first downs together. They still have not scored on the offensive side of the ball, with their lone touchdown being a defensive takeaway. Up the middle, nice catch by Aldolis Nguyen. No relations to his quarterback, Tyler Nguyen, but he hangs on there for another first down. 2nd and 9, play action. Nguyen is sacked by Malachi Weston, his second of the first half. Weston really hasn't been all that good over the last couple of weeks, with a mix of him being banged up and not having Simeon Bonnet to help him out. But with Bonnet back in the lineup, Weston looks completely re-energized. On 3rd down, the pass for Sky Moore is overthrown. Looks like he got some separation away from Okuda, but Tyler Nguyen ultimately misfires. Dragons back with it. Here's Darwin Juskins to the outside. He is pushed out, but not before a strong gain. Other than this run and the reception on the last drive, Juskins hasn't been all that good today, but it's nice to see him really settling in after a slow start. Pooh Whitlock, by the way, in the zone as he's under pressure, sends it up the middle for his main man, Arturo Modello, who's off to another hot start receiving-wise here in the first half, per usual, and he gets it to the 46, and with that, Modello is now in the zone as well. 3rd and 5 for the Dragons. Puma, play action. No time to throw it. He's sacked by Roanzo Sanders. So the Seahawks will get it back here with a 2-minute drill. They only have 1 timeout because they have no clue how to use their timeouts. Open short. Nice catch and a big hit. But Sky Moore hangs on for the first down, and the Seahawks are going to look to move quick, going no huddle. Nguyen under pressure up the middle. He's got Metcalf, who's been quiet today. Breaks a tackle. DK breaks another. And is wrapped up by Cam Lucifer. Got to give Lucifer credit, even with his struggles this year. He's looked pretty good so far today against DK Metcalf, and he was the one who made the tackle all the way downfield. Right as I'm gassing him up, Metcalf is able to get open here and make the play. Both Metcalf and Lucifer were pretty much jawing at each other on that play, but DK wins the rep. He's open for the first down. Down to around 20 seconds now. Again, DK wins the rep. He's open, but it's intercepted in the end zone. Cam Lucifer with his NFL-leading 5th interception of the year. And I feel like that play is a perfect description of how Lucifer's season has gone, because that was not a good play by him. He lost the rep in press coverage immediately. DK Metcalf was wide open. The pass was underthrown. Lucifer makes a play on the ball. It's 14-7 going into half. Dragons lead. Let's take a look at our halftime report around the rest of the NFL. Really taking a look at the AFC wildcard race as the Colts beat Jacksonville 23-17 with this late touchdown from Anthony Richardson to his tight end Rashard Hobart. Both teams now 8-8. And in Orchard Park, the Bills win a defensive slugfest over the Raiders 17-12. Both teams now 9-7. The AFC wildcard race, just like the NFC, is really heating up. There's a lot of teams that's still in the mix. And then the game to watch for us is going to be this Monday night game. The Packers are the team who has the best chance of dethroning us for the number 2 seed. They go up against the Dolphins. So we are certainly rooting for Miami to win that game. And also because I like to root against the Packers anyway. Into the third quarter, I think our offense has been pretty solid. We've moved the ball well down the field. Puma Whitlock's been really good, but we just haven't consistently gotten points, only 14. And then defensively, the defense has been fantastic. Simeon Bonnet has 1 tackle, but his impact has shown because everybody else has been really able to produce, with Seattle's only touchdown coming on the defensive side of the ball. To start the third, that one is caught for a first down by Cephas. Oh my goodness, what a throw by Puma Whitlock. Again, threading the needle. Literally as perfect as you can do. Puma looking short. He's got Arturo Modelo, who is wide open and makes a great play after the catch to the 43. And St. Louis offense is looking really good to start this drive. Puma Whitlock looks unbelievable right now, trying to make a late season MVP push as he's under pressure and is sacked by the rookie out of Virginia Tech, Johnny Green, for a loss of 6. Nice play there by Green, the X Factor, as it is now 3rd and long for the Dragons. Puma looking deep downfield in double coverage. It is broken up in the secondary by Zion Onyologwu, and that will ultimately lead to a punt. Another solid drive that just doesn't end up in points. 3rd and 7 here for the Seahawks. Tyler Nguyen looks to throw it. His pass is caught. Nice catch by DK Metcalf. It is also worth noting that Seattle has not been able to run the ball well at all. Kenneth Walker's done pretty much nothing today, which, again, Simeon Bonnet being back, his impact has been made clear in the run game. 8 carries for 21 yards as Popo tackles him behind the line of scrimmage, and that'll take him out of the zone. He's done all of that while being in the zone, so imagine how much worse he'll do being out of the zone. 3rd and 10. Nguyen looking downfield, but he will send it out of bounds. Jackson Smith-Njigba was open. If he had thrown that pass a second earlier, I think they could have converted. So Tyler Nguyen's rough season continues. That'll lead to a punt. Dragons have it back. 3rd and 5. Puma Whitlock's pass is broken up, looking for Modelo. But again, it's Onyologwu who makes the play. And now we're starting to look at a defensive battle. Halfway through the third, it's still 14-7. There's Bonnet in the backfield, slamming down Kenneth Walker for a loss of 3. Finally, Bonnet is in there for a tackle for loss, but we have seen his impact in other ways by opening up opportunities for everybody else in the front 7 to really produce. 3rd and 8. Short pass is caught for a first down. Nice play there by Seattle to keep the chains moving, as that one is caught by Rigsby Remington, the rookie tight end. 2.5 to go now here in the quarter from the 42. Nguyen looks to throw it. He's under a little pressure, going short. It's caught by JSN, who breaks the tackle. He's out of bounds for another first down, and again, Seattle's offense is starting to look pretty good. 2nd and 4 from the 40. They're finally past midfield. Play action. Nguyen is sacked. Owen Popo and DJ Orleans are there with half a sack each. Popo coming in off the blitz. Orleans wins his rep against the tackle. And now 3rd and long. Here is Nguyen under more pressure. He will have to throw it into the ground. Finnegan Howell Coleman leads the way in the backfield. And another punt for the Seahawks, who still have not scored on offense all day. Dragons back with it. Here's DeAndre Swift with a big run down the field. Swift with a nice juke move, and he gets it for a gain of 24. A huge gain for DeAndre Swift, getting up there in age. He's 29 years old, but he's trying to show that he's still got something left in the tank. Now to start the 4th. On first down, it's caught by Mallard. Breaks a tackle. Fumbles the ball. It's going flying. And it's picked up by Andre Sisco. It's Gunther Zimmerman who had the fumble recovery touchdown back in the first quarter with the force. So Mallard initially made a nice play to fight for extra yardage, but that ultimately landed him in a lot of traffic. It's kind of hard to tell if the ball came out there, but ultimately it did. No need for a review. Seahawks get it with new life off of the turnover. 2nd and 9. DK Metcalf, wide open, beats Lucifer off the press. Breaks the tackle from Bourgeois. And this game is tied up. A 74-yard touchdown for DK Metcalf. And the Seahawks are awake and breathing. Again, Cam Lucifer losing the rep immediately. Pre-snap, he's got to be better. DK Metcalf gets off the line way faster than him. And just like that, this game is tied at 14. And now the Dragons offense has some work to do. They have not scored since halftime, and they've got to get it together. They could be in danger of losing to one of the worst teams in the league. Puma on the run, has a wide open Amarion Cephas. Perfect start to the drive. He gets 34 yards as Vita Vea is banged up for Seattle. 2nd and 10. Puma has rushing room, and he'll take it. Sliding to the 29. Good play there by Puma. Nobody was open except for a gap up the middle. 2nd and 9. Dragons moving quickly down the field as Juskins gets the handoff. He gets a nice first down gain, bringing it to around the 16, fighting for as many yards as he can to try to push forward into the red zone. 2nd and 10 now, just over 8 minutes to go. Puma Whitlock calls an audible here on 2nd down as he will look to throw it short. Up the middle, Modelo is in! It's Modelo time! Arturo Modelo with his NFL-leading 16th touchdown of the year, 2nd of the game, and the Dragons are back ahead 21-7 with a quick drive there by Puma Whitlock to get the momentum right back. Here's Nguyen up the middle for Sky Moore. He's had a pretty productive day today, and now he is injured. Right as I'm gassing him up, he gets hurt. Not ideal. 3rd and 6 now for the 41. Play action. Nguyen looking to throw it. His pass is caught by Metcalf, who is leveled by DeMore Diggins. Not a shot at the first down, and that'll lead to a punt. Seattle trusts their defense to get a stop. Their defense has been pretty good in the second half. Puma up the middle for Jamison Williams. Big 3rd down conversion as JMO brings it to the 38. 2nd and 9. This clock is ticking. Under 5.5 to go here in the 4th. Juskins with a nice block from JMO. Whoop! Jukes away from Zimmerman and is wrapped up at the 45 by Andre Sisco. Juskins certainly playing better as this game goes along against his hometown team. 3rd and 10. Puma on the run. Under pressure. Has likely open to the 23, and Vea's hurt again. What a play there by Puma Whitlock. Under pressure. He's able to make a really tough throw, and Isaiah Likely is now in the zone as a result. Play action on 1st down. Puma on the run. Back to Modelo looking for his 3rd touchdown of the game. And he is just held out at the 1. Another nice play from Arturo Modelo. And the Dragons are right there. Can they punch it in? 2nd and goal. Puma rolls right. Has Cephas, who's in for the score. Amarion Cephas drags both feet in bounds. The football was flying in the air. And the offense has indeed come alive here in the 4th. And the Seahawks are in trouble. 3.5 minutes left, down by 2 scores. Nguyen off his back foot. It's caught by Jackson Smith and Jigba. And Simeon Bonnet is hurt. Jesus Christ, this team can have nothing good. Bonnet would end up tearing his labrum. Going to be out for the game. That is a multi-week injury. And he will likely be out for the start of the playoffs. We've seen how bad this defense plays without him. Today he returns. The defense, minus Cam Lucifer, has been great. And now he's hurt again, which is just horrible news for St. Louis. They could not afford to have him go down. So now the Seahawks are going to look to take advantage, and they're going to start quick with a nice play there into the hands of Reggie Burnham. 2nd and 10 from the 41. Seahawks with a sense of urgency, looking to move as fast as they can, as Nguyen throws it up for grabs, and Reggie Burnham comes down with it to the 23. Clock is ticking. Seattle going as fast as they can. 2nd and 1. 2.5 to go now. Nguyen, clean pocket. No Bonnet, no problem. He's got DK Metcalf, who's in for a 2nd touchdown today. Metcalf was quiet in the first half and has kind of taken over this game in the second half. He has toyed with Cam Lucifer, as has every receiver Lucifer has guarded over the last month. So the Dragons get it back, up by 7. Seattle decides not to go for an onside kick, and St. Louis can end it on offense. Puma on the run for Modelo. That was on 3rd down as well. A huge conversion for Modelo, his 10th reception of the game. And the Seahawks are down to their last timeout. Another first down ends this game for good. 2nd and 5. Can Swift finish it off? He does! DeAndre Swift, welcome back to St. Louis. Dives down for the first, and that'll do it. Even though we only won by 7, I feel like the team played quite well today. The offense moved the ball down the field consistently, only 14 points in the first 3 quarters, but when we needed to come alive, we did. Great performance from Puma Whitlock, throwing 4 passing touchdowns. And defensively, I thought we were really good, but our defensive performance is going to get overshadowed by the Simeon Bonnet injury, and we're going to have to start the playoffs without him on the field. And we saw today how important he is. In the 3.5 quarters Simeon Bonnet played, our defense was phenomenal. Seattle's only touchdowns were off of a turnover, and then the second touchdown was a 70-yard pass in which they got the ball, again, off of the turnover. The second Simeon Bonnet gets hurt, Seattle's offense actually looked good. That last drive was their only good drive of the game, partly because they were moving so fast, they were in a nice rhythm, but also because Simeon Bonnet was not on the field. Tyler DeWitt's numbers, I feel like, inflate his game. He wasn't that good, especially in the first half, but he did play well down the stretch. And then Puma Whitlock, he's him. There's not much more to say. On the ground, Darwin Jeskins was good. Kenneth Walker was not. Again, we saw the impact of Simeon Bonnet in the run game, and it showed. Modelo and Metcalf, both phenomenal. Modelo with 10 catches for 150 yards and 2 touchdowns. Metcalf had more yards than though. I kind of touched on it in the last episode. I hate having the best receiver in the NFL who leads the league in yards and constantly having a receiver on the other team outgain him. Defensively, really good. Bonnet only had 1 tackle for loss, but him being on the field impacted things for everybody else. Again, other than Cam Lucifer, who had a nice interception, but he only got that because he lost the rep. So let's take a look at the injury for Bonnet. It's not a super long-term injury, but again, we're not going to have him until Conference Championship weekend. So that means in order to have Simeon Bonnet again this year, we're going to have to make the Conference Championship, which means we're going to need to win 2 playoff games without him. And we can't even beat the Jets, it seems like, without him. So we could be in a little bit of trouble. I still think Bonnet could and should win the Defensive Player of the Year because he's been so important for us. But are the injuries becoming an issue for him? He's now missed 7 regular season games over the last 2 years, 10 over the last 4. And if you remember, he did not play in the playoff game last year. He got injured late in the first quarter of that game. We talk about Puma Whitlock and how he got hurt in that game and didn't play, but so did Simeon Bonnet. I feel like that easily gets forgotten. Trajan Blyshenden will be back, though, so at least the rest of the pass rush will be healthy. But I don't know if it's going to matter too much without Bonnet on the field. Let's take a look at these scores. We saw all of them other than the Green Bay one, which again is the important one for us. The Packers ultimately win, which means we have not clinched the 2 seed yet, but we can still do it with a win in Week 18. Players of the Week, Puma Whitlock, along with Joe Burrow, Walker, and Nate Felder. Despite leading the NFL in passing yards and passing touchdowns following his big performance, Puma Whitlock still is in 2nd place for the MVP, trailing Lamar Jackson. And he is also still 2nd place for the Offensive Player of the Year because, again, it helps having the best receiver in the NFL. Those 2 guys complement each other so well. Next episode, Week 18 against the 49ers. We're also going to go over the defensive prospects in this year's draft class as we wrap up the regular season and look to lock up the 2 seed for good. Make sure to leave a like on this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Peace out.